Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Heather Lewis, and today we are going to be working on 2 nightstands. These are the nightstands that we are working on. I got them at the Salvation Army for $10 each, and it actually is a whole bedroom set. So along with these 2 nightstands, there's also a big dresser and mirror, but we are just going to be working on the 2 nightstands in this video, and there will be a part 2. In that part 2, I will be working on the dresser so you guys can see the full bedroom set. Let's go ahead and get into the makeover. Alright, so before really diving in, I wanted to share a few details about these nightstands. They are in fact solid wood oak nightstands, and as you can see, the tops are in pretty rough shape, which we will get into a bit later. The hardware is quite outdated, and I'm not in love with the color either, so let's go ahead and get started. Alright, now that we know a little bit about the dresser, we can go ahead and get started. It is very early in the morning right now, and the sun is just not working with me right now, but that's okay. I'll just have to cover my eyes a little bit. It's also making some weird shadows, so bear with me as the sun fully rises. But first things first, we are going to be taking off the hardware. If you look back at the intro of me actually showing these off, to me, the hardware just makes these nightstands look like they're smiley faces and frowny faces, so I am going to be taking them off and I'm not going to be putting them back on. That means I am going to have to fill in the hardware holes, but first things first is taking the hardware off. I actually had a really hard time deciding if I wanted this set or not. It's been quite some time since I've done an entire set, but typically when I see a piece or even a set, I know exactly what I want to do with it right off the bat. But really, I wasn't getting it on this set, and I really had to take some time to think about it. I did bring it home with me right away, but I just didn't know what to do with it. I am happy with how it turned out after all though, so you'll have to let me know what you think in the comments down below after you've seen the final reveal. I've actually seen some refinishers do some really cool things with this exact hardware, and the idea some people have for repurposing hardware like this is absolutely insane. However, it is not really my style, and I know I wouldn't use it again, so I'll definitely donate it right back to the Salvation Army and hope that someone finds it and is able to use it. I think it's better to donate it than just throw it out. Just because, you know, I don't like it or I'm not a fan of it or I won't use it again doesn't mean no one else will. So I feel a lot better donating it back to the Salvation Army than just tossing it out. After all of the hardware was taken out and put away, I took all of the drawers out so that I could get into the next step. These drawers were kind of hard to take out though, and that's just kind of by design so that they don't fall out easily. I just had to pull the drawers a little bit harder, and then they did come out. Alright, so now that the hardware has been taken off, I am going to be filling in the hardware holes with my Drydex spackling. I'm not going to be using the old hardware, and the chances of the new hardware being these exact lengths is not likely, so I'm just gonna go ahead and fill them in. I'm not sure which hardware I am using yet, but it'll all get figured out. I really like using Drydex because it does go on pink when it's wet, and then it does dry white, so you know when it's dry. I think because of this reason, it's a very beginner-friendly product, and also I think it dries a little bit faster than most wood fillers. There really is no reason why I use spackling over wood filler. I just have grown to love this product, and unless I'm staining and need a stainable wood filler, this works just the same. Typically, after I've got it all on, as you can see, I'll quickly go back and grab the excess for 2 reasons. 1, I save some, and 2, it's less to sand back. Eventually it'll dry and sanding will be necessary, so I'm getting my respirator on. You guys always come at me in the comment section when I'm not wearing the proper PPE, and honestly I do appreciate it because it reminds me that staying safe is always priority over laziness. I've also had a very close family member pass away from a lung disease, and just because of that I shouldn't be taking any chances. I am still working on finding some eyewear that'll fit my head, but eventually I will have that too. As you can see, as soon as my sander turned on, the dust went flying, and if it weren't for this respirator, I would have just breathed all of that in, which is absolutely toxic for your lungs. So if you are trying something like this at home, please, please, please get a respirator and some goggles or some eyewear that will help you protect your body and just keep you healthy in general. I am using my DeWalt palm sander with a 220 grit, and if you are interested in either the sander or the respirator, I will have them linked in my description box down below. I am really going to be focusing on sanding down the tops of these nightstands because they do have some pretty significant water damage. I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but trust me, it is there. And the water damage is making them bubble up a bit. So sanding it down will knock down quite a bit, but it isn't going to be perfect. And I will have to mention that in the listing when I go to sell them because you can still see it a little bit, and I'm not going to hide that from a potential buyer or even you guys as viewers watching my video. I don't like hiding things from people, and someone's going to see it anyways. Now, I already know someone is going to ask me why I didn't just replace the tops, and trust me, I did debate replacing the tops, but it almost felt like it was more work than it was worth the money, and I didn't think I really would get much money back from that. So I did the best I could sanding them down, and that did help significantly, but unfortunately it's just not going to be perfect. Sanding the tops were probably the most important to do for this project, but sanding the rest of the nightstands were important too because knocking back some of that top layer is going to allow the paint to stick so much better. If you've done a solid job sanding, there should be a decent amount of dust left behind like you see here, so it's important that I clean that up. Typically, I will clean before sanding, but I knew those tops were going to be extremely messy, so I held off until now, but I am cleaning with Dawn dish soap and warm water, which has constantly been the go-to cleaner for me, and it always seems to do the trick. To me, it's pretty self-explanatory, but to someone who is brand new to furniture flipping may not realize this, but cleaning up the dust from sanding as well as any dirt or grime before any primer or paint goes on is so dang important. I know there's been a few times where my cleaning job just wasn't good enough and I paid the price with my paint because whatever was underneath showed right through. So cleaning is important. If you notice the first time through cleaning just wasn't enough, go back and do it again. If you notice that your water is dirty, go change it out and change it with new because trust me, it is so important to do it and you will thank yourself later because otherwise you will be going back and starting over. While I'm finishing up the cleaning, I want to mention that if you guys have made it this far into the video and you are enjoying the type of content that you are watching, please go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe if you aren't yet, as it really does help small channels like mine grow. Every subscriber and every view counts, and I want to thank you guys for your constant support because making a career out of my YouTube channel is my dream, but I can't do it without you guys. So if you are watching, thank you. If you watch all the way through, thank you even more. And if you are subscribed or just subscribed, thank you so much. Alright, so before I get any farther into this video, I wanted to go ahead and talk to you guys about this brush. I did promise you guys in the last video that I would talk a little bit more about it, but this is the Valspar wall and trim brush. Now, I typically don't use it for a wall or for trim, but the bristles are just so soft that it works perfectly on most of my furniture flips. This brush claims to produce smoother finishes and reduce brush marks, and I 100% agree that it definitely does do that. There are a lot of brushes that are very similar to this, but this one I specifically like the most because the bristles just guide across the surface so smoothly. I will make sure to have this link down below in case you guys want to go ahead and try it out for yourselves. I definitely recommend this brush. If you have not yet tried it, you have to try it. Right away, you will see a difference between even the Purdy brushes over this brush. Trust me, I am not sponsored when I talk about this, but I do believe that everyone who paints or is a painter deserves to have a good quality brush, and this brush has really proven to be one of those for me. Whenever I'm using this brush in a video, I will use it for all primer and paint. I do, however, have a different brush to apply the top coat. It is the same style and brand, it's just not the exact same like physical brush. I do this because over the year I've noticed the top coat can be pretty hard to clean out and can even affect the bristles on the brush. So as I'm starting to prime here, I'm using the same brush. The primer I'm using is the Zinsser 123 primer. This can has definitely seen better days, but I'm just trying to finish it up so I can explore other options. Don't get me wrong, I love this primer, but I literally use it every time I flip a piece of furniture, so it's time to expand my horizons. For those of you who don't know, priming is an important step to most projects. 9 times out of 10, I only need an adhesion primer, which helps the paint stick to the surface better. This is what the 123 primer is used for, but every great moon, there is a time where I will need a stain blocking primer, and in that instance, I would use a product like the Kills primer, which is specifically meant to block stains. Those stain blocking primers are a little bit more spendy than just the adhesion primers, but they definitely do the trick when you're trying to get rid of a stain. A couple hours later, the primer was dry and I was ready to throw on the paint. I decided to go with this dark gray color called Iron Ore from Sherwin-Williams. I don't typically use Sherwin-Williams, but I was really impressed with their paint and I'll definitely be trying more of their colors because I really am impressed with them. I don't know if I've ever actually tried them. I usually stick to Lowe's and Valspar, but I am trying to expand my horizons a bit and I really liked how it turned out. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I really didn't have a great idea for what I wanted to do with these nightstands. Originally, I thought it would be pretty to paint them white and then do a dark stain on the top where the middle squares are. But with the tops already being in rough shape, I figured they should probably be painted, and then so that was out of the cards, and then I picked out the new hardware and I didn't like them with just the solid white nightstands. Like, that idea was just not, I wasn't liking that one either. So after some time I finally settled on this color and I do actually love how they turned out. I think it's very dark and moody and I think it'll be a perfect bedroom set once it's all finished. This paint actually dried pretty fast, so pretty soon after the first coat had gone on, I was able to kind of go back to where I first started painting and start painting on the second coat because that stuff, all of the surfaces there were already dry, so I did go ahead and put a second coat on. I did have to do a third coat touch-up. I didn't have to do a full third coat, but just some minor touch-ups to make sure that it was fully done and it had full coverage. I think even in this footage you can tell that this paint is more of a high gloss finish paint, and this paint actually does have a top coat included with it, so I didn't end up doing any top coat. Now I am still going to be doing the dresser, and if I feel the need to put a top coat on then, I always can later, but for now I'm not putting a top coat on because I think they're good. The last thing that needed to be done was installing the brand new hardware, and lucky me, Avery was around and willing to do it for me as he's so much better and way more accurate than I ever am. Now, whenever I use this farmhouse styled hardware, I always have to rave about it because it seriously helps my pieces sell so fast and it's so dang affordable too. I get them off of Amazon and I'll make sure to have them linked below in case you'd like to try them out for yourself. But anyways, you guys, at this point, these beauties are done, so I think it's time that we get into the final reveal.
So true. You drive me crazy like no one else. The final moment before I lose myself. And it's no use working 9 to 5.